Are trade shows a waste of time for CEOs, especially small business CEOs? Let's go through the pros and cons. In recent times, there's been maybe a movement against trade shows, right? Post-COVID, everything was shut down. Before COVID, trade shows were huge. It was a great way to meet buyers. And then COVID happened. And then kind of people figured out how to use Zoom and Telework and meet buyers without having to fly out the buyers. They just learned how to work remotely and didn't feel like they needed that connection. At least that was the feeling. And there's been so much written about it. And there may be some truth to that. But I don't know, I look back at how much I learned during the trade shows. I love going to Etail West, right out here in Palm Desert. Beautiful location. Love the desert in the wintertime. But more than that, you're around like-minded people. You're learning so much. It's all about e-commerce and SEO and things like that. Of course, PubCon's a great one, and Inspired Home Show in Chicago for all of those in the kitchen and home business. Great product show over there. So these shows, they move the industry, right? This is where the industry meets. This is where the buyers are, the experts are. But still, there's kind of that maybe feeling amongst a lot of influencers nowadays that, the trade shows are not needed. There's a camp that says, work on your business. Don't spend the time at the show. They're too long. They're too costly, and they are costly. When you exhibit, a trade show can be very costly. If you exhibit right, it's going to pay off. So we can kind of talk about those things. My advice is industry trade shows, especially in your industry, they're critical. You need to go. As a CEO, if I'm coaching a CEO, definitely they have to go to the industry trade shows and learn. Maybe depending on the size of their company, they're not bringing the team, or they're only bringing 1 or 2 team members. Maybe they're not exhibiting if they're smaller. Maybe they are if they need the branding, right? It's a case-by-case situation. But in fast-moving industries, when technology is changing so quickly, you need to be there amongst the brightest people. You need to hear the talks, but you need to apply the information, right? That's kind of the key distinction, I think. And listen, the top CEOs, the top leaders, they understand this. Everybody's in one place. So all your buyers are there, technologists, all the experts, National Retail Federation, for example, experts like that are going to be at the retail shows. You're going to get data that you're never going to get sitting in front of your computer, okay? Because you're talking to the people who create the data. They're the ones who measure, and they put the context behind the data. I think really the way one can approach this is kind of the onus is on us. If we go to the show, are we going to make the most of the show? I think that's, putting accountability on yourself. Make the most of the show. You're going to come home with things that are going to change your business. You're going to grow as a leader. You're going to be more well-versed inside your industry. These are things that you definitely can take away if you have a good showing, a good walk of the show, and that you're social, and you get out and you meet people. So a couple interesting stats here. 14% of the Fortune 500 companies reported a 5-to-1 return from their trade shows. I thought, that's pretty interesting. First of all, I think they keep good stats, better than most SMBs, right? And they're reporting, I'm sure it's only 14%, it's not like it's 80%, but 14% with a 5x return on a trade show. I thought that's a really interesting statistic and shows the power of the trade shows. Listen, the other one, buyers are much more likely to do business with you when you create that nice first impression and you meet them in person. Of course, you could go fly out to Home Depot, go fly to Seattle, meet Amazon. Go to North Carolina, meet Lowe's. You can go to all these places, or you can just go to the trade show and meet them all at one place. That's always the draw, right? This is common sense. So I never really understood why people have this disdain for trade shows. How about something that's not brought up? Business should be fun. Why does it have to be a dredge every day, right? When you go to a trade show, it's fun. You're having great culture events with your team, dinners, outings, you're working hard, you're setting up things, you're tearing things down. All of these things build culture. All of them can be fun. Take a lot of pictures, share the memories. Those things should not be underrated as far as the importance of getting the team together and getting the team outside of the office. So finally, what really is important is your execution after the show. I think this is what it all boils down to, right? Okay, you do all these things we talked about, but then people will complain about the show. Well, how was their execution? How was their follow-up? How was their preparation before the show and after the show? What did they do with all of the contacts and buyers? How was that organized within the company so that it was executed properly? Really, what's super important is actually contacting buyers before the show, right? Setting up your appointments, doing all the work ahead of time, but then being organized on the back end and then having a way to follow up and report back to the key decision makers at the company. So I think it boils down to that execution after the show and really taking personal accountability. The show is just the show. Everybody's showing up. And you're there to hopefully perform better than your competitors, right? Do a better job in preparation, a better job in execution afterwards. So put it on yourself. I think shows, when you prepare properly, have a good time, but also have a great business time and make connections. And I think they're well worth it if it's the right show, especially when these are industry shows and you're trying to improve your knowledge within the industry and then apply that back at the office. Hope this was helpful.